Blog Post 16, ALS and Ramsey Prong Plus Being Careful, October 15, 2010.
The Ramsey Prong drains water off of the second highest peak in the park, which is Malgioat, 6,621 feet. The trail climbs 2,375 feet over its course of 4 miles. At the end of the trail is Ramsey Cascades, which can be seen to the right. Recently we have had a few rain showers, so I thought the water might be high enough for some good pictures on the Tennessee side of the park. There are quite a few waterfalls in the park, but they usually are lacking one important thing: water. So, before you go and try to get pictures of a waterfall, you might want to make sure that there is some water coming over it. Before we left, I checked the online water gauges and found out that we probably wouldn't have any water. We decided that today was our best chance of having any water with the leaves though, so we gave it a go. When we got there, we found out that the water was actually very high. It made me wish we had our boating gear instead of our hiking gear. Even though we didn't get to do any boating, we still had a wonderful time on this hike. Yesterday, the water was pumping down the mountainside, making the hike all the more exciting. I think that yesterday's hike was the first time I have ever been hiking up a creek trail that was full of water, when I didn't have a boat on my shoulder. Since I started having physical trouble with ALS, I have had a very hard time carrying objects. When you do a lot of kayaking around North Carolina, you spend a lot of time carrying your boat up and down trails. Since I can no longer really do this, a lot of my favorite kayaking runs are now out of the question. It is probably for the best though. If I could still carry a boat around, I am sure I would most likely be out running a bunch of stuff that I shouldn't be. I am a person who likes to throw caution to the wind. I don't make super dumb choices, but they are not always super safe choices. Since I started losing my balance, I have started being more careful. Prior to going to see a doctor about my problems, I had fallen down close to 20 times around my house. Since realizing I have a problem with falling down, I try to be as careful as I can. But I also still like to challenge myself, so I do end up falling from time to time. One challenging thing I used to like to do was put on my pants standing up. Haha, easy you say. Not so much. Trying to balance on one leg and slide the other one through a pant leg is one of the hardest things I do all day long. I was doing quite well with this seeming easy trick until one day when I didn't make it. I was trying to put on some exercise pants, which are not as stiff as jeans. My feet got all caught up in them and I fell on my hip. Since then my tailbone has been hurting fairly badly every time I bend over. I now sit down to put on my pants so I don't repeat the injury. On the trail I try to be very careful. For the most part I take my time and watch out for dangerous spots. However, I notice that it's the stuff you aren't thinking about that gets you. I will usually fall on stupid stuff. For instance, slipping on a bunch of acorns is fairly common. Yesterday, the trail was super wet and slippery. We were getting near the top of the trail and the difficulty was picking up. I made it through a bad spot and was standing on a rock waiting for Natalie. Once she made it up, I started talking to her. I turned to move and slipped and fell right on the hip I had fallen on before. Today bending over is once again a pain. Being careful 100% of the time is impossible. However, taking tiny steps to avoid injury, like sitting down to put on your pants, can really save you some pain in the future. On the trail note, yesterday's hike added on another 4 miles, bringing our total to 86.4 miles.
Blog Post 17, ALS and Old Settlers Trail Plus Emory Trip, October 20, 2010.
Yesterday, we got back from our trip to the Emory Medical Center in Atlanta, Georgia. We went to see Dr. Glass, who runs the ALS clinic for Emory Neurology. We started out our trip by staying at our relative's home in Atlanta. Lynn and Hans took us in for the night so we would have a closer place to stay in order to be better prepared for our appointment. We had a wonderful time eating the superb organic dinner that Lynn fixed for us, everyone except Theo, that is. He enjoyed a peanut butter sandwich instead. The following day we went to our appointment. After meeting with Dr. Glass, he agreed that he believes that I do have ALS. This is the fourth neurologist that has told me this so far. He was surprised that we were taking the news so well. However, we have known this news for some time now. During the appointment, we saw research specialists that discussed the trials that they are doing with ALS patients at Emory. The video link is about the most important trial and explains it fairly well. We asked to be considered for this trial but won't know for some time if they will need us. We also gave some of my blood, which they will keep in storage along with my parents' blood. In the future they may develop some research to look closely at possible DNA traits for ALS. I think that's what they said. We also saw a pulmonary specialist who tested my lung capacity, which was around 94%. In fact, everything is fairly normal for me right now, except some weakness in my right hip, and some foot drop in my right foot, and of course the fasciculations. We then had another EMG test. It was shockingly crappy as usual. After it was over, we went on our way. We will have a call back soon and then return in about 3 months for a follow-up appointment. I plan on writing more about the appointment later on, but for now I am too worn out from traveling. On the trail note, Daniel, his new wife Lizzie Smith, and I just finished the Old Settlers Trail backpacking trip. The trail was great. We saw many old home sites, plenty of huge rock walls, and an old barn. The trail was 15.8 miles long, bringing our new total to 102.2 miles.
Blog post 18, ALS and Goldmine Loop Trail plus foot drop, October 26, 2010.
A few days ago, Bill, Bobby, their neighbor Tom, and I all went on the Goldmine Loop Trail. This trail offers hikers a nice short loop. It starts off at the other end of the tunnel that lies at the end of the road to nowhere. The second proposed road through the Smokies was supposed to run by Lake Fontana. However, the road was never completed and it simply ends after this tunnel. Hence the name, the road to nowhere. After you walk through the long dark tunnel, the trail descends to Lake Fontana. The lake level has been low lately, so we had a chance to see what kind of animals have been roaming around in its bed. We saw a few deer tracks and a lot of small bear tracks as well. The trail then ascends back up to the top of the mountain, and along the way you can see an old home site. On this hike I noticed that my foot drop on my right foot was getting pretty bad. I can still lift my toes up, but they don't lift as much as they should. Foot drop is a common problem for ALS patients. As your nerves start to give out on your legs, your muscles lose the ability to function properly. So, it's common for ALS patients to have foot drop. You eventually start to use your hip and butt muscles to lift your foot up, and these muscles become sore. To fix the problem, you have to get a brace that is designed to hold your foot up when you walk. Yesterday, we went to the orthopedic office to get sized for my brace. What they do is make a molding of your foot and lower leg and then use that molding to make a brace. The brace itself looks ugly and annoying. It was depressing to finally get a brace for my foot drop. I had a harder time at the orthopedic office than I did at Emory. However, you need to realize that having a brace helps you. If it keeps me walking for a longer period of time, then who cares what the thing looks or feels like? I have already started using a cane around the house and for everyday errands. If you have trouble walking, then get some help. The new brace will keep me on the trail longer, and it will help me prevent doing any more additional damage to my knee joint. Knowing you are going to have problems and actually going through the process of having problems is a big difference. It's best to take it one step at a time. Everyone is going to lose the ability to do things in life. Everyone ages, and with age comes an aging body. You have to accept the fact that you can't do what you used to, but you can still do stuff. I plan on doing as much as I can while I can. If having a foot brace helps me do it, then I am going to simply do it with a foot brace. On the trail note, we added another 3.8 miles of hiking, bringing the new total to 106 miles.
Blog post 19, ALS and Sewanee Plus Kayaking, October 27, 2010.
The other day we returned home from our trip to visit Natalie's younger sister Mary, and my relatives Laura and Britt, at their homes in Tennessee. While we were there, we went on the Cumberland Trail and saw the Tennessee River and parts of the Cumberland Plateau. The trip was very nice, but it did wear me out. During our visit we got to see the College of the South, SWANEE, and we enjoyed homemade organic pizza that was made from scratch. Thanks, Laura. Over the past few months people have been asking me if we still kayak. I am glad to announce that we finally have an answer. The answer is no, we don't kayak anymore. I found out today at Big Creek that kayaking is a sport that requires a body that is fully functional. Having weak hips and balance issues leads to one thing and one thing only: hard crashes. Today the water was high and the weather was perfect. We started off by driving to the Greenbrier River, only to find that it was way too high. We then decided to head back to a fairly high Big Creek. At Big Creek we soon found out that I can no longer roll my boat back up. It turns out that going down the creek upside down is indeed fun, but it also turns out that rocks hurt, and as we all know, humans can't hold their breaths forever. So no, kayaking is now a thing of the past. I am glad to announce that I think gardening is in my future, as well as some high-energy whitewater tubing, or at least just sitting in the creek in a tube. Below is a picture of Upper Big Creek at low water. Imagine how nice it is to see the entire river from the seat of your boat as life passes you by. I will miss the water from this vantage point, but at least I can still see it from the trail.
Blog post 20, ALS and a newfound gap to road prong plus hypermetabolic disease, October 29, 2010.
Yesterday we went on a short Appalachian Trail sampler hike from Newfound Gap to the top of the road prong. Chrissy, Graham, Natalie, and I all enjoyed the crisp late fall weather along our way. The trail offered huge views of the surrounding peaks. From the north side of the trail we could see the Alum Cave, Mount LeConte and its surrounding peaks. One thing that I haven't mentioned yet is, while we were at Emory, we found out that ALS is considered to be a hypermetabolic disease. We now know that the disease causes people to lose weight. When that happens, the disease process speeds up. So we are now actively trying to get my weight up. For the past 7 or 8 years I have always weighed 163 pounds. I now weigh 152 pounds. So, we are now increasing my caloric intake and trying to get back those lost 10 pounds. Some of the weight is most likely gone from cutting out the consumption of any alcoholic drinks and of course cutting out unhealthy fatty foods. We are adding back calories by adding on more healthy fatty foods and trying to snack more, and of course eat more. I also drink juice with creatine in it every day to help build muscle. On the trail note, above you can see a section of trail that has been gated off by the Forest Service to keep out wild hogs. This section contains beech trees which the park has been protecting from the destructive non-native European hogs since 1984. A common topic on hikes pertains to the different theories on why certain people's bodies experience ALS. They currently don't know what causes the disease, but a lot of people believe that you have a certain gene that predisposes you to developing this disease. A lot of people also believe that environmental toxins are to blame. However, it can't be just one or the other. If only the gene caused it, then more people in an ALS family would probably have the disease. If toxins were the only blame, then everyone in a certain area would have it. I think that it has to be a combination of the two. So, if your family has had someone with ALS, it is probably a good idea to try and avoid toxins too. If someone in your family has the gene, then you could have it too. And maybe, if you avoid toxins, it will never become a problem. So, put up a healthy defense to try to keep any disease at bay. Keep in mind, this is all just theory, of course. However, there is nothing wrong with trying to stay healthy. On the trail note, we added on another 1.7 miles, making our new total 107.7 miles.